So today we're going to be trying to cure a dishwasher that keeps draining even when no cycle has been selected. This often occurs with Miele dishwashers, Bosch dishwashers, and ASCO dishwashers. The tools we'll be using today will be a standard head screwdriver, a 3/8 inch drive, and a Phillips head screwdriver with this short little attachment allows us to go in tight spaces. We also need a sponge and a bowl for water. So the symptom here is if we turn on this Miele dishwasher, this is a Miele Incognito, turn on the power, and even though we haven't selected any cycle, if we close the door, the drain turns on. That shouldn't happen unless you first selected a cycle. This indicates that the lower tray of the dishwasher is flooded. We'll talk about 3 reasons that cause that and how to fix them. Another indication you may have would be if you try to pick a cycle, over here we pick cycle 3, which is the normal wash. That lights up. When we close it, we hear the drain, which is normal, but that should only last for maybe a minute or two. In this case, this drain will just keep going and going, and when we look, we may find that the intake drain light is illuminated or flashing, which is indicating a problem. So here's what causes it, and here's how you can fix it. Probably the main cause, most commonly, is a problem with how the drain line is routed. As an example, we can see here, here's the garbage disposer, and here's the drain line coming from the dishwasher. In this case, it's coming into the dishwasher and going straight down. The problem is the sink fills up with too much water, and the disposer fills up. Water will go through this tube and flow backwards down into the dishwasher. Normally there's a valve in the dishwasher that stops water from flooding, but sometimes those valves get obstructed. So we're going to show you now in the dishwasher where that valve is located so you can check it. It's pretty easy to do. All we have to do is open the door, pull the drawer out. We take this spray arm off by just lifting it straight up. Take the filter out by turning the handle and then lifting it straight up. And this area down in here is called the sump. And this thing is the one-way valve that prevents water that's in the drain tube from flowing backwards into the sump. We don't want that dirty water to enter this clean environment. So we got to check this thing, make sure it's okay. So we're going to use our standard head screwdriver to pry up on this spring clip. This is what holds it in. Just push that off to the side. And you may be able just to lift this out, or you may have to use your standard head screwdriver to kind of pry it out. Sometimes they're a little bit tough to get out. This one's not too bad. So we pull this out, and we can see there's something caught in there. That's not supposed to be there. That's probably a food particle that somehow got past the filter and clogged this thing up. Let's come up here and take a look at it. So what's happened is this is clogged up and is preventing a ball from coming down and being seated. So to clean this, we're going to actually lift this upper part out. Kind of wiggle it out, lift that out. Oh yeah, there's something caught in there. So let's get that food particle out of there. And now we can see this big ball bearing is supposed to sit down against that rubber seal, but that food particle was keeping it up and water was just flowing back down into the machine, which ultimately causes it to flood. To put this thing back in, we just push it in. We can see there's a little ridge that fits into this opening. So we're going to push that in and just push it until it clicks. Now we have a good watertight seal. And now we've cured that problem. We do have to still deal with the problem at the garbage disposer. Looks like we got to push this one in a little bit tighter. Get it centered better. There we go. Okay, let's put that back in. So this piece has to go inside that rubber seal first. So we're going to push that in and we're going to sit this down. This actually covers the drain impeller, which spins around. Now we're going to take the spring clip and put that back on to hold everything in position. We'll put our filter back into position. And then we'll put our spray arm back in. All this stuff is so fun to work with because it just clicks in. Really not many tools needed at all. All right, now let's go over how we can cure this problem at the garbage disposer. We use our 3/8" drive. And what we want to do with this drain hose is just basically make this part go higher up. So when this fills with water, if we have this up higher like this, there's no way that the water can raise up to a point where it can flow backwards. So dirty water from the sink will be unable to flow back down into the dishwasher. Some dishwashers have an air gap way up by the faucet, which also can help prevent this problem. But if you have this direct arrangement, you just have to put a big arch right here to cure the problem. So to do that, we're just going to loosen this fitting right here. We use our 3/8" drive, loosen that up, and then what we can do is just find a clever way to get this up higher. I'm just going to route it up through one of these water lines, up over, and then back down. And that'll allow me to get it up there higher where that water can't flow back in. So now if we can see here to the side, that's up higher than this opening, and that's going to keep the water from going back into the sink. And we got rid of that obstruction in the one-way valve, which was the other cause of the problem. Okay, that's corrected. I'll show you one more thing that may cause this. Those are the easy things to correct. And in the Miele dishwasher, there's a rubber seal. This is the impeller that spins, it pushes the water around. It's in like that. But sometimes there's rubber seal develops a little leak. You know, water dribbles out through this rubber leak, and that floods that lower tray. That's a little bit more involved procedure, still not that difficult. But I think in our case we figured out what it was. Now here's how you get rid of that water down there. Let's come back down. We can look at the area that got flooded. We're going to bring our sponge and our tray, and I'm going to make sure I get rid of the power now going to the dishwasher. So I'm either going to turn it off at the breaker, or in this case I've got the plug right there. That's easy, so I can just reach in, unplug the dishwasher. It's very important though that there's no power going to the dishwasher at this point, because you're going to be working with water nearby electricity, and that can be trouble. So we come down here, we have this plate. Normally there's another kick plate in the way here too. Usually they're black. They have a couple of screws on either side. You just take those out. This one has a couple of screws, one here and one on the other side, Phillips head screws. I've already removed them. So now I take the plate, I'm going to move it up and pull it out of the way. And now we can see this lower tray, and if you can see with the camera, there's some water in there, and that's not supposed to be there. When that happens, that white thing over to the left is a float made of styrofoam. It floats up with the water, and it activates a micro switch, which then activates the drain. So the drain will continually run, and no water will be allowed to get into the dishwasher. Another thing that could cause this condition is a leaky intake valve, which lets water come into the system. Sometimes they don't close all the way and they need to be replaced. If that's the case, then it's important to also manually turn off the water going to your dishwasher, because even though it's unplugged, water will continue flowing in and will continue flooding, and eventually will flood over and even hurt your floors. So if you notice that you're still getting a water buildup, that intake valve needs to be replaced, and it's wise then to just turn off the water coming to the dishwasher. So the way we're going to get rid of this is kind of archaic but effective. One thing people do will be to remove the dishwasher out of its case and then tilt it forward, but that involves a lot of labor. In this case, we're just going to soap up the water with a sponge, and then we'll bring it over to here and just wring it out. So we're doing it old school style, and we'll keep doing that until, it might take about 20 times until all that water is gone. Another option would be to just unplug it and let it sit for about a week, and evaporation would get rid of all the water, but you're out of luck for 1 week with no dishwasher. So we're just going to use this sopping up technique. Remember, it's critical that we have the power off, because if you look to my left, that's a live power, 110 volts coming into your dishwasher. You don't want to mix that with electricity and water. That's trouble. So we're just getting all that water out of there. And if you turn on your dishwasher and you stare in underneath this with your flashlight, sometimes you can see water dripping. It'll make a ripple down here, and you'll see the water moving. That's telling you that there's a leak somewhere in the system. It's probably that little rubber piece that I showed earlier has a leak. And again, that's a little bit more involved of a repair. In our case, it was just the drain line was routed improperly, and the one-way valve had an obstruction. So once we get this water out of here, we're going to be okay. Typically it's about maybe 2 bowls of this volume worth of water that you have to remove. So it's just a matter of doing this over and over, but I don't want to bore you guys with doing this forever, so let's see if that may have already solved the problem. Let's come on up and see if the system will start. So we got to plug it back in. Add power. Turn it back on. Pick a cycle. Let's pick number 3. And turn it on. So the drain always turns on normally at the beginning of a cycle, but it should only run for about a minute. This again is the part that sometimes fails. Right in there, it develops a leak. That happened to this dishwasher a couple of years ago. So this is the actual part. This is part of the circulation motor. So after a few minutes of drain, the next thing that should happen is the fill cycle should kick in. And that's what we're hearing now. So we've actually cured the problem already. The dishwasher is functioning. Once it fills, it'll go to circulation. And again, this usually involves some of these foreign makes like Miele, Bosch, and ASCO. They all have this lower drawer anti-flood system. And we know you have a problem when it's just always in the drain mode and won't do what we're having here, which is fill and circulation. And this is the way to cure it.